I come to the hobby. I come to card collecting. I come to this podcast for refuge, for sanctuary, to feel safe and temporarily separate from everything else in the world. But since the attack on Israel last Saturday, last Shabbat, on Simchat Torah, the joy of Torah, shattered by the brokenness of death, I haven't been able to think of anything else. And so I come to you and I come to this microphone seeking refuge from everything else. What I strive to do on this podcast is evergreen. Evergreen. I'm not a content creator. What I do is not meant to be consumed, eliminated in an unending, insatiable quest for more. I like to tell stories. Sometimes I might be silly and sometimes I might be serious, but I hope I give you chances to think and to feel and to laugh. But I'm willing to risk departing evergreen content for a moment, departing just for a moment the 1984 All-Star Game to talk from my heart. A heart that's been in a pain I've never known in my entire life. So I'm willing to risk it and speak from my heart. Everything is impermanent, and our emotions are fleeting. Right now, and for the past week, the world's hearts have been with Israel. The Eiffel Tower is lit up blue and white of the flag of Israel. The Brandenburg Gate in Berlin is lit up with the blue and white of Israel. Israel has the world's sympathy, but emotions are fleeting. And so what I want to ask you to do, I want to ask you to maintain the moral clarity you feel right now. Remember the actions of Hamas. Remember their barbarity. Remember those were civilians, men, women, children, babies, kidnapped, raped, mutilated. As a point of comparison, the 1,300 deaths in Israel occurred in a country with a population of 9 million. The 3,000 deaths that occurred among our citizens on 9/11 happened in a country where we have 335 million. 9 million people, 1,300 deaths. 335 million, 3,000 deaths. It's not a suffering comparison. I'm just pointing it out as a ratio for those who might not understand the magnitude of what occurred. And so I'm asking you to maintain your moral clarity, because the feelings of sympathy are going to fade. 1987, Bruce Springsteen follows up Born in the USA with Tunnel of Love. I think I like Tunnel of Love more than others do. There's a song on it called Cautious Man. And I've been carrying this lyric since I was 16, 17 years old. It's on his right hand, Billy tied to the word loving. On his left hand was the word fear. and in which hand he felt his fate was never clear. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. Israel is unique among the nations in that it desires and actively seeks to be loved by the West. It wants to be loved as a light unto the nations for its incredible strength and resilience, for being the only democracy in the Middle East, as flawed as it appears at times. And Israel has to be feared in the Middle East. It longs to be loved by the West. It must be feared in the Middle East. For long hours last Saturday, the world witnessed what happens when Israel and when the Jewish people do not have a safe and sovereign state. That was who Hamas is. They are committed to the annihilation of the Jewish people and the elimination of the state of Israel. When your feelings of sympathy pass, I ask you to remember your moral clarity now. I ask you to remember to know right from wrong. Because Israel, unfortunately, is reestablishing fear among its neighbors. This is a regional conflict. Iran is behind Hamas and Hezbollah. This is a regional conflict. And Israel needs to reestablish fear among her neighbors. And in doing so, they will lose love from the West. I'm asking you to maintain your moral clarity. I am not asking you not to grieve or object to the innocent Palestinians in Gaza. I do believe there are innocent Palestinians who do not want this at all. I'm asking you to maintain your moral clarity. And in doing so, you will be among the righteous among the nations. And you will be on the right side of history. For on that day, a week ago, August 7th, 2023, more Jews died in a single day than on any day since the Holocaust. And Israel had its most dangerous moment since the Yom Kippur War exactly 50 years ago. The surrounding Arab nations caught Israel on Yom Kippur asleep at the wheel and launched a war on Yom Kippur, October 6th, 1973. Dave Spinrad turned 3 years old on October 6, 1973. On October 6, 1973, not only did the Yom Kippur War begin, the American League Championship Series between the Athletics and the Orioles and the National League Championship Series between the Mets and the Reds all got underway. Welcome to the Rated Rabbi Sports Card Podcast, where sports cards and pop culture meet the 1984 All-Star Game. This is episode 40, Hobby Shelter. October 6, 1973, Game 1, Baltimore, Maryland. Orioles hosting the A's. Starting for Oakland is Vida Blue, coming off a 20-9 season, 3.2 ERA. And on the hill for the Birds, soon to be AL Cy Young Award winner Jim Palmer, coming off a 22-9 record with a 2.40 ERA. He'd also finish second in the MVP race, and Palmer is on point. Baltimore wins the game 8-0. Palmer throws a complete game shutout, 5 hits, 5 walks, strikes out 12 Athletics. Orioles go on to win game 1. A's would come back, though, of course. A's would go on to win the American League Championship Series and the 1973 World Series over the Mets. But Palmer, what a great pitcher. You know, safe to say Jim Palmer and Steve Carlton are the pitchers of the 1970s, right? Rookie year 66, wins a World Series. Actually, he won a World Series in each of the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. 1966, 1970, and on the very tail end of his career, he's battling arm injuries, but gets a ring from the 1983 squad. In the 70s, though, is when he really reigned supreme. Check out these numbers. From 1970 through 1978, he averaged between 275 and 319 innings pitched, between 17 and 25 complete games, won 28 times between 70 and 79. He was a 6-time All-Star, won 3 Cy Young Awards. Jim Palmer was just dominant in the 70s. Elected to the Hall of Fame 1990, first ballot of eligibility. What a career. What I think is neat about him, he was one of those guys, and it used to seem more rare to me, and maybe it's become more common. Maybe I just notice it more. Palmer was actually a broadcaster while he was still active. He was part of the broadcasting team in the 78, 80, and 82 ALCS for ABC. And he was a broadcaster in the 81 World Series, also for ABC. A couple more interesting things about Jim Palmer. In 2012, Palmer auctioned off his 3 Cy Young Awards and 2 of his 4 Gold Gloves. He said, "My priorities have shifted. What I care about now is education for my grandchildren." He also has an autistic teenage stepson. He said, "Listen, my priorities changed." One of those Cy Youngs, also one of those ones auctioned in 2012, was part of a cystic fibrosis auction. It raised $39,000 at auction. But here's something really cool. The winning bidder never accepted the trophy. He donated the $39,000 and he says it's just for the cause, and never took the trophy, and Palmer kept it. Couple more notes on Palmer. 1991, Jim Palmer tries a comeback. Do you remember that? He's still fit, right? 1991, but the guy is 46 years old. Instead of a fastball that topped out in the low to mid 90s, right? He's topping out at 80. In spring training, he pitches 2 innings, allows a pair of runs on 5 hits. In that appearance, he actually tears his hamstring. He's 46 years old, and he hears this loud pop, and he knows that's it. The desire is there, but the body is gone. Remember that little brief comeback, 1991? What else? Well, I couldn't do an episode of this podcast and Jim Palmer without doing a little Jim Palmer and his jockeys. Come on. Starts off, he's 76, I believe. It's his first time doing the jockey ads. He's part of a group of athletes. Then he does it again in 77, or maybe it's 77, 78, part of a group of a handful of athletes. For some reason, remember Lydell Mitchell, the running back, was one of them. Palmer ultimately becomes the pitch man for Jockey. And If you're listening at home, I'm going to describe what's up on the screen. It is the classic magazine ad, Jim Palmer in his jockey underwear. God darn it, man. Jim Palmer is like crazy handsome. Look at this guy. Dimpled chin, piercing blue eyes, the beautiful, like parted brown hair in the middle. Now, I know he's lit, but they didn't Photoshop back then. He's got like the hairy chest, tan. Dang, man, Jim Palmer. Like, okay, yeah, like you're an underwear model. But here's another cool thing about Jim Palmer, the underwear model. Just like he donated the Cy Young Award to a cystic fibrosis fundraiser, all those ads he made in the 70s and 80s as the Orioles, I mean, as the jockey underwear pitchman, he actually never accepted a penny. All the proceeds that he would have received for his appearances in the jockey ads, he donated to cystic fibrosis. I just thought that was super cool. So, what's the connection between the devastation last week in southern Israel? My plea to you to maintain moral clarity when the emotions inevitably pass. Israel balancing a desire to be loved by the West and a need to be feared in the Middle East. The scariest occasion in Israel since the Yom Kippur War broke out October 6th, 1973, which also happened to be my third birthday, which also happened to be games one for the American League and National League Championship Series. The American League starters, Vida Blue for the A's, Jim Palmer for the Orioles. Palmer throws a shutout, complete game, 8-0 win, strikes out 12. Fantastic career Palmer has. First ballot Hall of Fame, ABC broadcaster, generously gives his cystic fibrosis, appears in jockey underwear. What is the connection? Jim Palmer is one of the 5 broadcasters in the 1984 All-Star Game, along with Al Michaels, Howard Cosell, Don Drysdale, Earl Weaver. Palmer was there, recently retired, working for ABC, and was, you remember, he was just awesome right from the get-go, right? Just smooth and professional. The card I have for Palmer in my PSA master set of the 84 games is the 1978 tops that I'm showing here on the screen. As I've said before, 1978 was the first year I was a card collector, so I was a little partial to it. I remember having this card when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure I still have it in a binder somewhere. I just look at him, man, just so like handsome, that great old like happy Oriole bird face, man. This is a baseball card to me. I got this one at PSA 8. This is one of those original imprint cards on my memory. Jim Palmer, 1978 tops. Well, thank you for giving me a little bit of refuge. Like I enjoyed a little sanctuary and shelter. I have another episode. It's pretty close to being ready. I might just go ahead and put it up on Monday, but if I don't, you'll understand why my schedule is interrupted right now. All right. Until we meet again, hug and kiss and hold those ones you love real tight. And may you be blessed and may you enjoy health and long life.